Good afternoon, class. So today we're in the week 7 of our winter 2025 semester. So congratulations on getting over and doing well on your midterms. That wasn't easy. And so now the only other test you have is your final exam in week 12. And so I'm going to go over how you can study for your week 12 final exam before I get to talking about the week 7 and week 8 assignments, which is what I do every day for these videos. So first off, let me show you from now on, when I give you the final exam study guide, I'm not going to give you the answers because the answers don't usually match what the test answers have. The best way to find the answers to the questions, what I'm going to do is I will give you what the questions are, and then you will find the answers in the textbook. And so today I'm going to show you how you're going to do that. So first let me get to my video and I will show you how you do that. So first I have to get to the textbook. And so first you go to your textbook, you go to modules, and then you will go to, in your case, you're going to go to expectations and reading. So I'm going to go to, and every week you have expectations and readings. So this is an example of expectations and readings. And then you click on any of these links to get to your textbook. So let's do reading and writing in college. And we'll wait for the textbook to show up. So this is your Flatworld textbook. Now I want you to toggle to self-study. Then you're going to see all of these flashcards, and these are the flashcards. You're going to write down the words supporting points. So let's say on your final exam, it's going to say, what is the definition of supporting points? All right, so let's flip this over. Supporting points are details, facts, and explanations that develop and clarify a writer's main point. So that's what you're going to write on your index card. So that on one side of the index card, you're going to write, let me flip this again. On one side of the index card, you're going to write supporting points. Then on the other side of your index card, you're going to write details, facts, and explanations that develop and clarify a writer's own, own point. And then you could take a quiz. Okay, so this one has not. So anyway, let's restart. And every chapter has its own flashcards. So if I wanted to go to, let's say, the chapters. 1.1. Search this book. All right, so let's say I want to go to 2.5. So I go to, you go to a different chapter. Let's see, table of contents. Okay, this is where you could find the, so you go to a different chapter, let's say chapter 6. Then, once again, in chapter 6, you wait for it to load. So these are the different kinds of essays. Then you always go to self-study. Always remember to click on self-study. Okay, so this one has no particular index cards, but let's find a different chapter. Table of contents. Let's go to I'm just picking up whichever. So rhetorical modes, and then you go to self-study. There you go. And so here you have what are opinions? Opinions are personal views or judgments. All opinions are not created equal. An opinion in argumentation must have legitimate backing. All right, and then you go to the next card. What is spatial order? And then you flip it. A method of organization that arranges ideas according to physical characteristics or appearance. Next, what is classification? And you flip that. To break down a subject into smaller, more manageable, more specific parts. What is an argument? A reasoned opinion supported and explained by evidence. Now, this may seem very tedious, but in order to do well on your final exam, you have to write down on the index card on one side, you write argument, and then on the other side of your index card, you're going to write the definition. And then you're going to test yourself, okay? So let's say I press restart, and I'm going to say to myself, opinions, and then you say what the definition is off the top of your head. Then you go spatial order, and you say the definition off the top of your head. And then if you can't remember it, you can flip it. So that's what you're going to do to study for, and this was on your midterm. What is a context? So context is the circumstances, conditions, or setting in which something exists or occurs. So then you've got to memorize the exact definition from the textbook, from this textbook. So because then when they ask you on your final exam, what is context, you're going to supply them with this definition. So you have to memorize all the definitions on all the flashcards, and that's the of this textbook. And that's the only way you can succeed on your final exam. So I'm telling you this way early because we're only in week 7, so that you have 5 weeks to look at your, flip these cards around and learn what each of these cards mean. And so before I do this again, so let me get out of this. Self-study. So you go to self-study, and then you go click on next. And when you click on next, it brings you to all the different words. So what are sensory details? So sensory details, descriptions that appeal to our sense of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Of course, we did that in the food games. So that one is really easy. All right. What is a thesis? And a lot of people got this wrong on their midterm. A sentence that presents the controlling idea of an essay. A thesis statement is often one sentence long, and it states the writer's point of view. And I think that on the midterm, it says that true or false, the thesis states the reader's point of view. False, it states the writer's point of view. Okay, so it's gonna on the test, they'll change the wording ever so slightly, or it might say a thesis statement is often a question and states the reader's point of view. Okay, so all I did was change one sentence to a question and writer to reader, and voila, that would be an example of a final exam or a midterm question. And so you have to memorize exactly this particular definition of what is a thesis. Okay, so next, facts. What are facts? Statements that can be definitely proven, ones that have, in a sense, an objective reality. So if I were to change this for a test, facts, facts are statements that cannot be proven and ones that have, in a sense, a subjective reality. So all I did was change this word proven and objective to subjective, and then becomes your test, true or false, and then we know that it's false. So that's why you have to memorize these exact words. What is an illustrative essay? And then an essay that clearly demonstrates and supports a point through the use of evidence. So you get the idea, all right? You get the idea of how you've got to use, the self-study flip cards or flashcards in order to study for your test. And so you have to, every time you go to a new chapter, then click on the self-study button to see if there are any flashcards for that chapter. Some chapters, there are no flashcards, just like we saw chapter 6, there were no flashcards. So every time you have a flashcard, you then write it down on your index cards. See here, I'm using index cards. I also use it. So you're not the only one that uses index cards. I use index cards too. So if it's good enough for the teacher, it's good enough for you. And in my case, I'm doing this for my other school for Bible study, to memorize the verses and stuff. Well, I don't know all the different verses in the Bible, so obviously I write it down to help me remember it better, you see. So everybody uses index cards. You can get this at the store. It's really cheap. And then I have another batch of index cards, but this is for writing a novel. So I find index cards really, really useful for organizing my thoughts, for memorizing definitions, and in your case, memorizing the definitions to your textbook, and in my case, memorizing Bible verses. And when I was learning Chinese characters, I also used these kind of index cards. So they are very, very useful for writing down your definitions. And so then you can then learn the definitions for your final exam. And also for your classes where you're learning the different parts of the body or different nutrients for your nutrition class, index cards come in really handy to memorize all those definitions. Also, for your science classes, your psychology classes, your psychology textbook is also going to have a lot of definitions for you to memorize. Once again, we use index cards. So it's not just for English. It's not just for Bible verses. Anytime you have a lot of words to memorize for whatever the reason, we use index cards so that, let's say your kid is at the doctor's. You're sitting in the waiting room bored. That's the best time to go looking through your index cards to memorize your definitions. And believe me, I've done that before, where my kid would be in the waiting room of the doctor. Actually, I'm in the waiting room of the doctor, and the kid's in the, and I would then flip through my index cards. And at that time, I was learning Chinese. And so I would ask my parents how, some of the Chinese characters, and I would flip through the index cards to learn the Chinese characters. So and then I ended up with an A in that class. So index cards really do work. Okay, now I'm going to go through week 7 and week 8 assignments. And so in week 7, all you have to do, you have 2 assignments. You have your week 7 practice weekly write-up, in which you just write for 5 minutes, whatever comes to your head. And I think for the week 7 practice weekly write-up, they have you compare 2 cartoon characters. So you could compare Superman versus Batman, or you can compare, I can't even think of any other cartoon characters off the top of my head. Just Superman and Batman off the top of my head. And then week 7 discussion is when you're going to start doing the pre-writing, the outline. Remember how when we did the outline in week 2 of the narrative essay? Well, in week 7, we're doing the pre-writing of the comparison contrast essay. So that's going to be your second essay. Your second essay is a comparison contrast essay where you're going to compare 2 things, 2 people, 2 ideas, 2 things that are relatively similar. For example, you could compare 2 classic musicians. You can compare 2 fruits. You're not going to compare a monkey to an orange because that's too different. But you can compare a tangerine with a mandarin orange, or you can compare one rock musician with another rock musician. So they have to have some commonality, and then you compare the 2. And then you're going to tell me which one you like better and why. And so your thesis statement would be online classes are better than face-to-face classes because reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. So that would be your thesis statement, and then your 3 reasons, reason 1, 2, and 3, will then become your body paragraphs. So paragraph 2 become reason 1, paragraph 3 becomes reason 2, paragraph 4 becomes reason 3, and then you have your conclusion where you're going to repeat the thesis, and then you're going to repeat the thesis as the first statement, first sentence, and then you summarize your essay. And each paragraph is going to be 5 to 7 sentences long. And so in your pre-writing, you can do many different kinds of pre-writing activities, such as the free writing that you've been doing each week. You guys have been doing really well on your free writing exercises. And you should actually do all your free writing exercises because those are the easiest assignments where you get an automatic 100% just for filling it out. So if you want an easy A, make sure you're not missing any of those practice write-ups. You can't go wrong. It's an instant A. It's a win-win. So make sure you get all your free writing done. So that is your week 7 forum where you're going to do a free write of your essay too. And then in your week 7, that's it. That's all for week 7. It's very easy. It makes up for the hard midterm that you had last week. And then for week 8, okay, in your week 8 discussion, you are going to write about, so I will go over it. Let's go over the week 8 forum. So let's see, I do this. And so I will go to the week 8 forum would be over here. I would go to discussions, and then we will discuss the week 8 forum. Okay, and so the week 8 forum, nobody has done it yet. And so here in the week 8 forum, what we're going to do is, so the initial post is due by Wednesday. And so you're going to rewrite your, rewriting is a fundamental aspect of the writing process, playing a pivotal role in refining and perfecting the written work. This crucial stage follows the initial drafting phase and serves various purposes. It allows writers to enhance clarity and precision, improve structural organization, and tailor the content to the intended audience. So you're going to rewrite your outline and pre-writing that you did in week 7, and you're going to write it into a rough draft. So last week you posted your pre-writing for your comparison contrast passage. So based on the feedback that you got last week, you're going to rewrite and repost your passage, but this time you're going to repost it as a rough draft. So post your rough draft of your week 8 of your essay 2 into the week 8 forum. So let's say the most common feedback that I've been giving everyone in the week 7 forum is I've been telling everyone to write your essay using the 5-paragraph essay structure. In other words, online teaching is better than face-to-face teaching is better than online teaching because reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. And so you're going to fill that out. You're going to figure out what those 3 reasons are, and then those 3 reasons will become your body paragraphs. So you're going to use the thesis statement that I give you in the week 7 feedback, and then you're going to write full on your rough draft for your week 8 forum. And so that's going to be your week 8 forum, and then your week 8 assignment. Okay, week 8 assignment. That's still your week 8. So your week 8 assignment, you're going to write an outline, okay? In other words, you're going to fill out the same worksheet that you filled out in the week 2. Remember you filled out that week 2 worksheet? Well, you're going to fill out that same worksheet for the second essay because we're going to be undergoing the same writing process that we did for essay 1. Remember how in essay 1, week 2, you did the outline of that worksheet. Then week 4, you did the rough draft. And then week 6, you did the final draft. And that corresponds to the 3 writing processes of pre-writing, writing, and rewriting. Well, you're going to repeat that process for essay 2. So pre-writing is going to be week 7. And then writing is going to be week 8. And then rewriting is going to be in week 11. Yes, there's going to be a big jump because you're going to do week 7, week 8, and then jump week 11 for your essay 2. And why do they skip week 9 and 10? Well, that's up to the instructional designer. And so the instructional designer in week 9 and 10, in week 9 you're going to be doing a persuasive essay, and week 10 you're doing an APA worksheet. So you got to remember week 7, week 8, and week 11. Most students, by the time they get to week 11, have completely forgotten their comparison contrast essay. And they're asking me, what are we supposed to do in the week 11 forum? You just wait. There's always 1 or 2 people who have completely forgotten week 7 and 8 because week 11 is like 1 month later or something like that. So just remember 7, 8, 11. Those are the 3 stages of the writing process for essay 2. 7, 8, 11. Say that over and over again, and it will ring in your head like a song lyrics. 7, 8, 11. 7, 8, 11. Okay, so I'm being silly, but that way you can remember what you're going to do. Because in week 11, you're going to then put the final draft of your rough draft into your week 11 essay 2 rough draft, and then in week 12, you hand in the final draft of your rough draft. Just like week 6, you handed in the final draft of your essay 1. So 7, 8, 11, 12. Those are the weeks you're going to be finishing off and doing the writing process for your essay 2. And that's really confusing for students. They just go, what? And then I'm going to go over in the next week's video, I will go over what is a persuasive essay, because that's what you're going to write for your week 9 post. And I'm going to go over what is APA, except in much more detail. So stay tuned for these future videos and start studying. I'm going to send out your the latest week 12, not week 12, final exam study guides. But remember, the guides are just approximate. And then I'm going to have you look for the answers by looking up the flashcards in your textbook. And in the future, for future classes, I'm going to have the classes look up the answers for all of their exams. So that way it avoids, oh, but teacher, it doesn't match the answer that's on your study guide kind of thing. So the only way that your answers can match your tests is if you study off the index card, the flashcards in your self-study. It's called self-study in your textbook. So always, after you read your chapter, make sure you're able to do the flashcards and test yourself. And if you can't get all the answers right, that means you need to write it down in an index card so that when you're waiting for your kid in the waiting room or you're sitting on the bus, you can review your index cards and memorize it. And that way, you'll do really well in your class. And also, I know that your nutrition class also has this same Flatworld textbook. So you're going to have to use this same study technique to memorize all of the different nutrients anyway. So you might as well just get familiar with this kind of study where you go to TOC. Not all of your classes will have a Flatworld textbook. I just know that for English 101, you have this kind of Flatworld textbook. And for nutrition class, you have this Flatworld textbook. But it's still a good idea, if you have other kinds of textbooks, to always write down the definitions of any of the bolded definitions that's usually at the end of the chapter or bolded within the textbook on an index card so that you can memorize it for the test. That's just something very low tech. Flashcards are still in. It's not fancy like AI, you know? It's not the latest thing. It's from the 1950s probably, you know, way before my time, but still it works. So I learned 500 Chinese characters using index cards, so it works. So that's it for this particular video, and I hope you found it interesting. And this is obviously for my Fortis College students. So if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Professor H Writing channel, and you know that you can always ask me questions anytime. So that's it for this recording, and I hope you have a great week.